Welcome to The Explainer. So you're applying for Social Security disability, and you know just how overwhelming the whole process can be. But what happens when you're not just juggling one health issue, but a bunch of them? Well, today we're going to break down how to build a winning application by showing how all those different conditions connect.
If you've got several health problems going on, you have absolutely asked yourself this question. It can really feel like the system is designed for a single, straightforward diagnosis. But your reality, well, it's a lot more complicated than that, isn't it?
And that brings us to the most crucial point of all. Success isn't about proving that one of your conditions is severe enough all by itself. No. It's about painting a really clear, connected picture of how all your conditions, all your symptoms, and even the side effects from your medication all combine to make it impossible for you to work.
So let's dive right in with what we're calling the multiple conditions puzzle, because that's exactly what it feels like, right? You're trying to fit your complex, messy reality into a system that just wasn't really built for it. Here's the core of the problem. The SSA system, it's built on these very specific rules and listings. They're often looking for one single condition that fits neatly into a box. But that's not how it works in the real world. Your conditions don't exist in little bubbles. Your chronic pain makes your fatigue 100 times worse. The neuropathy affects your balance. And anxiety, that can completely torpedo your focus. It's this whole web of interconnected symptoms that the system sometimes struggles to see.
So, how in the world do you solve this puzzle? Well, it takes a real shift in your thinking to what the source material calls the whole person approach. And let me tell you, this change in perspective is incredibly powerful.
Okay, check out the difference here, because this slide really lays it all out. On the left, you've got the losing approach. It's just a laundry list of separate diagnoses. It's kind of disorganized, and it makes the reviewer do all the work of connecting the dots. But the winning approach, over on the right, that tells a story. It shows exactly how each impairment and side effect bumps into the next one, and how they all add up to make full-time work impossible.
So this is where the rubber meets the road. Let's get into the practical steps, your game plan for building that winning case. These are field-tested strategies, all designed to present that whole person picture in a way that's organized and, frankly, persuasive.
Here are the 7 key strategies from the source material. We're going to hit the most critical ones, but let's just quickly run through the full game plan. You've got mapping your diagnosis, building a timeline, proving consistency, translating your symptoms into actual limits, elevating those non-severe issues, aligning your work history, and of course, avoiding the common pitfalls. So let's start with how you get all your evidence organized. All right, strategy number 1, you create a simple map, just like this one, and this becomes the backbone of your entire application. You take each condition, you connect it to the specific Social Security rule or listing that it falls under, and then, this is key, you translate it into its direct impact on your ability to work. This is how you start speaking the same language as the person who's deciding your case. Now this is a game changer. Strategy number 2. Instead of having just a scattered pile of medical records, you build a single, unified timeline. This thing shows how your symptoms, your treatments, and those key work events like when you had to reduce your hours all overlap. It's powerful proof that your conditions are persistent, not just some temporary problem. Okay, hold on. Before we jump to the next strategy, we have to talk about this absolutely critical term, Residual Functional Capacity, or RFC. All that is the SSA's official way of measuring what you can still do in a work setting, even with all your limitations. And believe me, your entire case ultimately hinges on proving what your RFC truly is.
This is where you put that RFC idea into action. Strategy 4 is all about becoming a translator. You translate your symptoms into the concrete, work-related language that the SSA understands. So you don't just say, I have hand numbness. You say, it limits my ability to handle or finger objects. You don't just say, I get migraines. You explain, they cause 2 to 3 unpredictable absences every single month. See the difference?
The other strategies are really about reinforcing the story. You prove consistency by making sure your family doctor and your specialist are all telling the same story. You elevate those so-called non-severe issues because things like insomnia or brain fog from medication, they really add up. And you avoid simple mistakes like being vague. Saying you're sometimes okay is totally useless. Saying you can stand for 10 minutes, now that is powerful.
So that's all great in theory, but what does this actually look like in practice? Let's take a look at a real-world example from the source material to see all these strategies come to life.
So, let's meet our claimant.
We're looking at the case of a 54-year-old from Virginia who had a long history of really physically demanding work in a warehouse.
And you guessed it, they weren't dealing with just one thing. Their application laid out a whole combination of conditions. You had serious physical issues like lumbar radiculopathy and diabetic neuropathy, and on top of that, they were dealing with recurrent depression and migraines.
Now here's the absolute key. Their application didn't just list those conditions, it detailed the combined effect on their ability to function. The back pain and the neuropathy together meant they could only sit for 20 minutes at a time, or stand for just 10. The pain and the migraines combined meant they'd be off task, unable to focus for about 15% of their workday.
So what was the result? The claim was approved. And why? Because by using these strategies, they successfully showed how everything added up. They painted that whole person picture which proved, beyond a doubt, that holding down any kind of full-time job was just not realistic.
Okay, let's wrap this all up by focusing on the single most important takeaway here. What do you need to know for building your own strongest case when you have multiple conditions? If you remember one thing from this explainer, let it be this direct quote from the source material. Your goal is not to just list your problems, it's to integrate them. You want to show how they all weave together to create a single, clear picture of what you can and cannot do on a daily basis.
So, as you get your application ready, I want you to ask yourself this final, really powerful question. When a reviewer finishes reading your file, what is the one clear, consistent story it's going to tell them about why you can no longer work? Because having a strong answer to that, well, that can make all the difference.